my colleagues are doing kind of one last roundup of folks to get everybody to reconvene, but we are back. Thank you again for staying with us today, or if you just joined us, thank you for coming to our TOD 2024 TOD Symposium. I'm John Carnegie. I'm Executive Director of the Voorhees Transportation Center here at the Blaustein School. We are coming off of a morning session where we focused a bit on PATH and how communities that host PATH stations have transitioned over the past several decades. And the afternoon session today is going to really focus on looking back and looking forward at 25 years of the New Jersey Transit Village Initiative. Since 1999, when the first 5 communities were designated, the program has grown and flourished. There are now more than 35 municipalities that are designated transit villages, all of them dedicated to revitalizing and redeveloping around their transit facilities in support of compact, mixed-use, transit-friendly development. I had this really interesting conversation with a colleague. I don't know, Jack's here. We've been at this for a number of decades, both of us, and Jack was commenting on the transition in the language from transit-oriented development to transit-oriented communities, and we kind of saw that bit of evolution happening in the conversation this morning about Jersey City and Harrison. I think we'll probably hear about it a bit more today. So just an interesting observation from being around the planning field and talking about these topics for a number of years. To kick off this afternoon session, we have with us today Megan Fackler, New Jersey DOT's new Director of Statewide Planning. Megan is a graduate of Iona College in New Rochelle, New York. She has more than 13 years of experience in the fields of government and community relations, both in the public and private sectors. She joined NJDOT in 2019, where she first served as Director of Government and Community Relations, developing and executing the department's public engagement and stakeholder engagement strategy statewide. Currently, as I said, she is the Director of Statewide Planning and focusing on policy formulation, performance management, long and short range planning, while ensuring that the administrative priorities, in particular safety, environmental justice, and climate change, are incorporated in the transportation planning processes across the department. Please join me in welcoming Megan to the podium. This way. I should have done those slides, but I didn't. This is the advanced slides.
It's also a very flattering picture. I was making a very valid point. I want that to be noted. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's incredibly humbling, especially being very new to this role, to come here. I know most of you know Andy Swords, and he's sorely missed within the department, and it's, as I indicated, very humbling to be here in his behalf. So, I also want to just open up with a little bit about myself. I grew up in New Jersey, however, left for New York for quite some time, as indicated by my bio, and one of the reasons I did come back while working in Manhattan was because I moved to Metuchen. Why I moved to Metuchen was because it was a transit village. So I just want to say that this not only is a new role that I'm formulating, but this specific initiative within my new role holds a very close place to my heart, because I wouldn't have been able to commute to and from or raise the family that I currently have of 3 young girls in the community that I do without it being transit oriented. So, kicking it off with a little personal note. Also, a little bit of a better one, so not making a point there, just holding a baby. Prior to coming here, I was actually speaking to one of my colleagues in construction, and he kind of didn't parallel where I came from what I'm currently doing in my new role as the Director of Statewide Planning. And he basically said, after I kind of discussed the transit-oriented development as well as the Transit Village Initiative, that it's the next genre in transportation. And that kind of stuck with me a little bit for somebody who isn't in the planning world, nor do they understand exactly what it means to kind of grasp that concept. So between 2010 and 2020, there were 153 transit hosting municipalities that grew twice as fast as the rest of the state. 7.7% growth versus 3.4% for the balance of the state. Together, transit municipalities accounted for 2/3 of the statewide population growth, up from substantially 3 previous decades, attracting and retaining those who might leave the state. As I indicated, it made me come back. So that's a huge part of our population growth. The focus and the want for compact, mixed-use, walkable places to live, work, and play, and shop is key, and as a state, we honestly need more. It's not without its obstacles, though. As part of why I was asked to speak here, it was not only the successes that we've accomplished, but also some of the challenges that we've succumbed along the way. Many towns historically embrace density. We live in New Jersey, we're the most dense state in the nation, so of course we all know that in some respect or another. However, zoning challenges are critical when it comes to transit-oriented developments and specifically transit villages. There are extensive zoning changes required to allow multi-family and mixed-use facilities at appropriate densities. Collectively, we need to create incentives for municipalities to revisit their zoning codes to allow for a greater housing variety, some of which might satisfy affordable housing mandates and obligations as well. Also, there's parking requirements that perhaps are a challenge, and I'm looking at you, Jason. See you over there. On the positive side, there are state agencies, such as the NJDOT, that encourage the transit-oriented development and transit village initiatives. NJDOT's Transit Village Initiative, as we will go into more detail a bit later in my presentation, is key, as well as NJ Transit's Transit Guide and the Complete Streets Policy as a whole. As a transit-rich state, and New Jersey is not lacking in transit-oriented development potential. Recently, trends indicate that there's a demand for the development, and we have to one of the other issues that we have to do is address the policy and regulatory factors that are currently hindering some of this transit-oriented development for its potential future residents. So with that, we're going to go into a little bit more. I know the panel that is following me will actually speak on the Transit Village Initiative as a whole, and I'm going to tell you how we kind of got there. So the New Jersey Department of Transportation's Transit Village Initiative was established in 1999, as indicated by I was so welcomely introduced. Went from 5 to 35 very quickly over the past 25 years, and we're hoping to accomplish a lot more. We have one pending, and we're looking for the next one. So whatever you learn today, please share with your municipalities as a whole. It creates incentives for municipalities to redevelop and revitalize areas around public transportation stations and use of transit-oriented development design standards. Again, we're 25 years in, but in 1999, these are the municipalities that which we started. And I have to say they flourished, and they are very different. And that's from our 20th anniversary, actually. So we have to take a new one this year. So from 1999, with those 5 municipalities, it didn't happen overnight, but as we indicated, we are now at 35, about to be 36 with Bernardsville as our next one, which we're excited about. But just seeing the interest and the amount of, there's a lot of, I'm gonna make you work for it with me, all right? Oh, no, I went too far. But basically there's 35 now, and it didn't happen overnight. I think it really kind of came from the sense of community, as well as just the initiative itself and what it means. I mean, the reduce of carbon emissions, as well as the sense of community as a whole, really makes a difference in why those 35 communities really reached into it. NJDOT's Transit Village Initiative helps local communities to grow through compact, mixed-use development around transit facilities, as we all know. It's really a testament to multi-agency collaboration. I think that's the key that's missed a lot. Everybody thinks they just want to be designated as a transit village, and unfortunately that doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of work from the municipal end regarding their, as I said, zoning, planning, smart growth, as well as our close work with New Jersey Transit, as well as our other partners, in order to establish, them to become a designate. It seeks to reduce traffic congestion and improve air quality by increasing transit ridership. Like to say, I happily took New Jersey Transit here today from Teton, so proof's in the pudding. So what is a designated transit village and how do you become one? Prior to the panel speaking, I really want to ensure that everyone in the audience has a comprehensive understanding of exactly what that means. There's extensive criteria. Again, there's a lot of people who we work with, and I actually have a staff member in the audience who diligently works as our Transit Village initiative coordinator. And unfortunately, it's a hard task to come by for some residential areas. However, you need to have a transit facility with significant convergence of transit services, demonstrate a willingness to grow in a transit supportive way, again, more walking than automobiles, adopts a transit-oriented development, redevelopment plans, or TOD zoning ordinances, which again, as I indicated in my opening, is one of our hardest things that we're coming by from a DOT perspective in assisting municipalities in getting their designation. It identifies and pursues TOD sites and projects within a half mile of transit facilities, identifies both bicycle and pedestrian improvements within a half mile of the transit facility, and identifies placemaking projects within a half mile of transit facility, providing eyes on the street, making a safer and cleaner environment. I think the primary goals and objectives to enable communities that have transit assets, such as passenger rail, light rail, bus transit, and ferry service to form a transit village district development, improve walking and biking access, and a variety of housing options, aesthetic improvements around the transit facility, and a sense of place in the community. As I indicated, one of the things that brought me back to New Jersey was exactly what I saw in the town that I currently live in. It was a sense of place, it was a sense of community, it was the sense of being able to commute to and from where I was working. I do drive to Trenton, which you can judge me for. However, I could take the train as well, and that's something that was incredibly important when we were making the decision to move back to New Jersey. So, again, the half-mile radius, I think, is something that's incredibly important, and some municipalities don't understand upon first deciding that they want to take the step into becoming a transit village. The half-mile radius is a national standard for pedestrian catchment around the transit facility. It's a 10-minute walk. Obviously, larger cities are a little bit different than the more suburban ones. However, that is where we focus when we're looking to designate a transit village. So what does it mean to be a successful transit village? I think that's something that, again, people want to become a transit village. Municipalities want the perks from a grant perspective as well as, getting more points when it comes to these competitive grant obligations. However, becoming successful as a whole really takes a full community approach. Sufficient and reliable transportation options at the focal point. Parking does not dominate the landscape, which again, I indicated at first, that's kind of a tough pill to swallow sometimes when it comes to residents who are looking to come to Main Street to shop or do whatever they do, and it's never not on social media when it comes to your town's pages, as I'm sure those who work in local government can understand. It's a willingness to grow in a compact, mixed-use neighborhood. It's understanding it's not just single-family homes. It's growing different size apartment complexes, townhomes. It's really thinking about how we can plan and develop in an appropriate way to support this type of growth. And it's a sense of place that attracts residents, jobs, and visitors. It's having that kind of town square feel that brings people there, and your ability to have things and events that kind of bring the community together as a whole. So the elements, again, of a successful transit village, it's the ease of biking and walking and less of a reliance on motor vehicles. And with that as a whole, that seems like a very simple statement, but with that statement, it also comes a responsibility to be able to do those things safely. And that's something that really the department is taking to heart, and we're doing what we can in order to have a complete streets policy and implement it in a way that ensures that no matter the mode of transportation you're taking, it's safe. But again, we like bikes and walking, so that's good. Also, transit supportive architectural design and guidelines. incredibly important as well. It's also one of the things that's not commonly known. No drive-through establishments can be new to a transit village district if you're wanting to become a designee. So that's one thing, again, the ratables as well as the comfort and the popularity. That's one thing that is not commonly known if you're looking for a designation. The old ones can stay, don't worry. I love my Chick-fil-A as much as the next person, but no new ones. And these are just some of the examples of just what it looks like to be a successful transit village. Again, it's not just about having a train station, it's what you do about it. It's about the art, it's about the culture, it's about bringing community together, as I indicated before, and it's about ensuring that all your residents and all the people visiting your town and your community can do so safely. So in order to become a transit village, it is a little bit of a, I don't want to say heavy lift, it's a well-deserved try. We have a task force which currently oversees the designation of all transit villages. Basically, a municipality will come to our task force with voting members such as the DOT, which I work for, New Jersey Transit, which is represented as well today, the Department of Community Affairs, the DEP, Economic Development Authority, Redevelopment Authority, Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, Office of Planning Advocacy, and the State Council of the Arts that are all a part of the process. Basically, we want to ensure that everyone who wants to become a transit village can, by creating a very comprehensive and robust application in order to do so. It is quite an accolade to become a transit village, and it's something that we take very seriously, so the criteria in which that we hold ourselves by is high. But we are very helpful and very willing to work with those who are interested in pursuing this. So even, it's never a no, it's what else can we do to get you there. So that's something that's also very important. So I never want anyone to think it's not a rubber stamp no here. We are looking, and again, my member of staff in the audience will hold your hand through any level of the process to get you there. Also the MPOs, which we work very closely with on a lot of levels with the Department of Transportation, they are non-voting but also key members in ensuring that we are obtaining the level of criteria we're looking for in order to successfully designate transit villages. So once you are a transit village, what do you get? Oh, now I'm going backward. I love technology. So why do you want to become a transit village? Not only from all the things that I've already discussed regarding the sense of community, the air quality, all of that, but there's also some financial assets to becoming a transit village itself. Not only are you able to coordinate with the transit village task force members, which I mentioned in my previous slide, because between our agencies collectively, there are a lot of things that we can do to help assist in more ways than just a transit village and municipality once we make the connection. There's priority funding and ranking in various state agency programs, and the NJDOT Transit Village Grant Program. And I just want to say July 1st, anybody who's here, Jason, got it? In order to apply for those grant programs. There's also technical assistance from the state agencies, which were previously mentioned, as well as many more. So this is just an example of the grant opportunities that are had. I mean, over $3 million were spent in last fiscal year regarding transit villages, and this is just a snapshot of what was done. I have to say that one of the things that is least talked about, in my opinion, is the NJDOT's local aid program and what we can do from a grant perspective and the opportunities that are on the table. So I would really encourage all of those in the audience that are in the municipal government to really visit our local aid resource center and see beyond this. This is just, again, a snapshot of what we can do from a financial perspective to ensure that your municipality or your county are meeting the goals that you're looking to achieve. So that's just my little plug for one of my favorite divisions. So as I indicated, the process is not short, it's not long, but obviously we want only the highest of the high criteria to be a part of it. Obviously, you have to contact the NJDOT to say you're interested and get all the information. There's a pre-application meeting that is required, which we kind of just lay everything out and ensure we're on the same page in order to ensure there's no back and forth, and once we receive your application, everything's on the up and up. Then the application has to be submitted within 6 months of that pre-application meeting. If complete, and I say if complete because again, any application process, especially when working with the state, is, perhaps has some more hoops than you'd like to jump through. So our goal is to ensure that when you do submit your application, everything we need and all the information is correct and accurate for us to be able to proceed. Then we go to the task force, which I indicated earlier, through all our state member agencies as well as the MPOs to discuss and deemed if we think it will be a successful and efficient transit village initiative designate. Then we will recommend designation. The commissioner of the NJDOT, currently acting Commissioner Francis O'Connor, previously now Chief of Staff Diane Gutierrez-Gichetti, will sign off on that. And then we will announce the transit village designation on your behalf. The whole thing about a transit village, and I think the theme of what I've been talking about is community itself, and you can't become a transit village just on your own. Your community has to have buy-in, it has to be a part of it, and that's the reason you're doing it. So the designation requirements are obviously the citizens of the community have embraced it and are supportive of the type of development that must come around it. It embraced the vision that it has to come to reality through public input and stakeholder outreach. And the current municipal by-right zoning reflects this community embrace vision. And it obviously has to actively promote transit usage by enhancing access and improving the experience to the transit facility. I'm not done yet, there's more requirements. It has to encourage affordable housing near public transit, eliminate auto-dependent stores and uses, support local culture and the arts, which I think, as seen by my previous slides and the pictures of the transit villages that were shown, it's such an incredible part of it, and it's kind of the puzzle piece that makes everything whole. And it has to be pedestrian and bicycle friendly, not only friendly, but obviously safety is of the utmost importance as well. And you have to take special care of your station. It can't just be one that falls to the wayside and things of that nature. We take pride in transit villages and how they support their community as well. So if any of the municipalities currently represented in the audience, or if you know anyone or a resident who's interested in perhaps exploring becoming a transit village and all that it becomes, Susan Weber and Yelena Lasco, who's actually in the audience today as well, they are the point people on my team that will be able to assist you with that. They are fantastic, and like I said, it seems cumbersome, but they will make it simple as cake. In addition, I know I kind of did a broad stroke of what a transit village is and what the Transit Village Initiative is and how to become one. However, these websites can definitely speak more eloquently and more in detail to exactly what you need to do in order to facilitate that, if you so choose. So, if it's one thing we want, it is more transit villages within the state of New Jersey. I know we went from 5 to 35 in the past 25 years. However, the wealth of opportunity within the state that's currently growing is leading to much more transit villages throughout the state. So we are actually, from a department perspective, looking at what we deem quality and perhaps those that meet the criteria in which that I described, and looking to actively engage them and target them. However, we are also interested in speaking to those who perhaps don't fit the mold and seeing what we can do from a planning perspective as well as a development and redevelopment perspective in order to help facilitate the potential. So with that, I'd like to introduce the panel. Thank you.
Sheena is on her way in, so she's doing a just-in-time arrival.
A lot of that going around.
You were on time.
taking the train?
No, she's coming in through the back. I've just been told. But I'm going to ask our panelists to come up. So, everyone, let's take 1 minute for Sheena to come, but I can start by introducing myself. I'm Stephanie DiPetrolo, if you don't know me. I lead the njtod.org project here at the Voorhees Transportation Center. We work hand in hand with the transit-friendly planning program at New Jersey Transit to advance transit-friendly planning and transit-oriented development here in the state of New Jersey. And I invite you to come and visit our site online. I'm hoping Sheena will walk in. But we have 3 great panelists today, all representing transit villages here in the state, from different generations, so to speak, of the Transit Village program. Soon to join us, as maybe she stopped in the bathroom on the way here, will be Sheena Collum. She is the village president, otherwise known as the mayor of South Orange Village, the township of South Orange Village, New Jersey, and she is also the executive director of the New Jersey chapter of the American Planning Association. That might be the way most people know her. And she is going to be talking about, of course, her community, South Orange, which is one of those first 5. Come on down. You are making the dramatic entry of arriving just as I'm introducing the panel.
I thought we were starting at 2 o'clock.
No, I'm sorry.
All right.
It's okay.
A little wrong, but I am here.
Perfect timing. I said we changed it. I'm sorry.
Oh, it got changed. Okay.
It got changed, but it got changed a while ago, but that's okay.
Oh.
We're all good. And then, of course, I'm going to screw everyone's name up now because my brain is a little rattled. Jason Delia, who is council president in the borough of Metuchen, the community which Megan Fackler has so proudly a resident of, and which drew her back to the state of New Jersey, and he's going to be talking about the many things that have been happening in Metuchen. And then I'm so happy to have one of the more recent transit villages, Pallavi Shind, who is the director of planning for the city of Newark. As I said, one of the most recent transit villages, and really also provides us a bit of a contrast of, transit villages are not only suburban communities, they're not only communities that are only served by commuter stations, and so we're really hoping to talk about the breadth of what transit villages can be in the state and what they provide. So, let me just, I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, I'm up first?
You are up.
I love it. I love it. Sounds good.
Do you want to take the lectern?
Could I?
Absolutely.
Great. And how do I advance this?
Right here.
All right. So I just hit that.
Yes.
All right. Very cool. All right. I am so sorry for my delay. I am Sheena Collum. I'm the mayor of South Orange, New Jersey, located in Essex County. I'm very thrilled to be here to talk about our transit-oriented development. So here's my pretty slide. We just did a rebranding. Isn't that the coolest logo you've ever seen? All right, so I don't know how to do anything interesting with graphics, so I just pulled up a Google map, and the yellow kind of check marks are where we have projects that are completed. These are the ones that we've done in the past 10 or so years, and then that label right there, very, very important. It says train station, and that's what we're here for. The blue ones are active redevelopment projects that we're working on right now. So before I kind of get into a highlight of the different projects we have going on, I would say that being the executive director of the American Planning Association in New Jersey, and I see our VP of Policy, Tom DeLassio over there, turned me into a ninja getting ready to run for public office. So got in 2015, one of the big things that I wanted to do was increase the amount of tools that we had in our community. One of those things was having townwide rehabilitation. I know, I was running for office and people were like, that little girl just blighted our entire community. Property values are gonna drop. I was like, yeah, I did, but I wouldn't quite put it in those terms. It has been the most helpful tool for us in order to effectuate some of our redevelopment projects. We have several redevelopment zones, and most importantly, our residents now understand the redevelopment process so much that they're the ones asking the governing bodies to do the redevelopment studies in their commercial corridors. Can you imagine that resident saying, please turn us into a redevelopment zone? So the overwhelming majority of these in our central business district are within a designated redevelopment zone, but then all throughout the community we have town-wide rehabilitation. Some planners call it spot zoning. I don't like that term. I don't think so at all. I think it's a scalpel approach to a unique site that could advance your overall master planning goals and be creative in how you work with your planners and your professionals to make projects come to fruition. So I'm just going to take you through some projects. Smart Growth Award winning Taylor and Vose. So this one was pretty cool. Just got built a little while ago. Its occupancy is looking fantastic. 5 stories. You can see some of our community benefits agreements here. We got $1.3 million for lands. There was surface parking in that area the municipality owned, and they're like, well, you're still getting your parking back. It's like, yeah, but you're building in the air, and we own the air above that land. So we got $1.3 million for that. We did only do 10% affordable housing on site because we needed the money for another project I'm about to show you. And the very cool aspect that I want to highlight is that the ground floor activation is so difficult these days when you're competing with Amazon. So we're looking at it from an equity lens of not only can we do with housing and having kind of meeting our affordable housing obligations and having great units and all that, but how are we activating the ground floor as we're competing with Amazon. So it featured 2,000 square feet of community co-retailing incubator space, and this is a little picture of it. And Stephanie, I don't know if there's a way to do this, but I embedded a video.
Yep.
And I can just hit play.
Yep.
All right, so this is called the CoLab. What it's meant for is entrepreneurs who can't spend $45 a square foot triple net in our downtown to be able to sell goods and services well below market rent. I mean, they're spending maybe $15 a square foot because this was the community benefit agreement back to South Orange. So it's deed restricted for this use through the term of the pilot. So, and here was the launch video, and I suggest you look at all those happy faces. They are so happy. All local makers, artists. There's a cheese wheel place in the back. And this is showing community cooperation with all of our small businesses and people who could never find a space in our downtown with the high rents that are there. So, oh, those are Rice Krispie treats, absolutely delicious. All right, I think you've had enough of the video, but basically everybody's having a really good time. Stop. There we go. So remember how I talked about that we got money from the prior developer? This is a fully 100% affordable housing partnership with a special services organization that deals with adults with developmental disabilities in South Orange called the Jesby House. And then Bergen County United Way also came in. So we're seeing a match between low-income families and adults with developmental disabilities. So the money that we got from the prior developer went to some assemblage. You can see some of the project estimates of the cost. We were able to get the 9% low-income housing tax credits. Where's this located, Sheena? Where do you put your affordable housing? A 50-second walk to the train station. It's located right next to me in the heart of our downtown with accessible amenities, services, everything you can imagine. It's a more modest project, but I can tell you the clients are really excited about it. Next up, we have, I'm sorry, I don't know why that did that. Oops, wait. This is under construction right now. I can see it out of my bedroom, or actually my office, because I live right in the heart of the downtown. As you know, if you're an elected official who lives kind of in the more suburban areas and you're not really where the redevelopment's happening, you're always accused of like, it doesn't impact you, you have no idea. I have an idea because it's all happening around me, and I can assure you it's only increasing my property value. So this is right across from the train station. Used to be like a Wells Fargo, one of those drive-throughs, surface parking, So it now is amazing. So it's the total 5 stories, which is normally a little larger for South Orange. We used to be a 3-story town. We used to do about 30 units per acre. Now we're developing between 5 to 7 stories, and we're at 80 to 100 units per acre since I was elected. So it's got the 20% affordable housing on site, the parking spaces, everything is 1-to-1 ratios. We're trying to reduce that in our next project down to 0.75. Again, we used to be one of those communities that was always 2, right? We need 2 parking spaces for every unit. And then when we finally got it down, we could see a lot more projects come to life. And similarly with this developer was like, oh, Sheena, there's no retail around. We really don't have any room to put retail on the ground floor. We'd really love to put more housing. No, we'll figure out a way to activate the ground floor across from the train station without traditional retail. So what we did was we created an artist incubator space. Artists also, like, the starving artists, where are they going in our downtown? And so we worked with our artist community to negotiate this space, and this is going to be the layout. The nonprofit that's going to be overseeing this is called SOMA, which stands for South Orange Maplewood Co-Creative. And as you can see, there's all these different workstations where people can actually share all the different things that they use to create art. There's a multifunctional event space where they can have, they can feature different things. They can bring in artists, they can have talks. And then all along the outside of the building are the art walls where they can be displayed by the artists and people can purchase them digitally on their phone, or they can walk in and they can meet the artist, so that's going to be sensational. This is 4th and Valley, another redevelopment project, half a block from the train station. You can see kind of the scale of this, again, building up. Right in the very back of that is where the train tracks are. So we try and lower, the height where it's the pedestrian area, very large sidewalks. And it's a weird shape, right? It's a very long parcel, and this is I think it's a fantastic design. There's a park right next to it too for all the residents and people who are moving in, and so you can see a contribution to park improvements, and this is what it looks like right now. These are most recent pictures. Remove the utility poles, and it's actually a breathtaking building, but we put a big premium on the public spaces in front, and the ground floor has 10,000 square feet of retail that we want for a restaurant to activate moving down on Valley Street further away from our train station. I bring this up because you always want to talk about historic and adaptive reuse. So I'm the mayor who sold our city hall, and it's now a beer garden. It's amazing. It is absolutely activating the nightlife in our downtown. And this one is probably one of our best success stories. The money that we saved using redevelopment tools, I know it's not housing, but it really helped create the nightlife right around our train station. It's only 2 blocks away, and so we could see a lot more activity happening at night. I bring up our South Orange Performing Arts Center because after the Transit Village designation, how do you ignite that area? You're getting more people, you're getting more customers, you're getting Midtown Direct. So the village took advantage of that with building a performing arts center, which has been named Best Small Performing Arts Center. We want to be a hub of arts activity. This is right up against the train station. So we have about 50,000 people using alternative transportation to come in and see the shows. And last but not least, we're in discussions with New Jersey Transit. That looks big, I know. But that's their surface parking lot. That big building right there is on top of nothing but New Jersey Transit-owned surface parking. As we always say, the lowest and worst use of land. So this is to be determined. We have active negotiations. We're trying to get assistance from the EDA. We've been looking at federal programs for TOD under Joe Biden. And this is going to be the biggest thing ever. If you noticed, I said we sold our city hall and it's now a beer garden. Now we're going to recapture 15,000 square feet of municipal offices in a project that's right in the heart of our downtown at no charge. But we'll make it up on the pilot. And then we're also trying to get New Jersey Transit to reduce their parking standards as well for replacement parking. And the blue all along this is called the River Greenway Project. And what the River Greenway Project does is connect 3 towns through walking, bicycling, skipping, hopping, jumping, whatever people do, across 3 towns away from some where the traffic is and our more, busy corridors. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to do my best to match Sheena's energy. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it. That was great. So my family moved to Metuchen in 2011, and at the time, I moved there because of the train station and the great downtown. I didn't know, unlike Megan, I didn't realize that it was actually the Transit Village designation that was actually part of the reason why it was so great and why so many people that do live in Metuchen actually have a very similar story to what I do of downtown businesses, downtown transit, and then good schools. So I've been on the Borough Council this is my 6th year, 3rd year as council president. And I have since learned that the Transit Village has a big part in what makes Metuchen great. So for those that don't know, Metuchen, where have you been? But Metuchen is a small town, about 2.8 square miles. And we have that downtown that's very, very centrally located right in the center of the borough. It's served by the Jersey Transit. It's on the Northeast Corridor. This kind of setup really allows us to compete with much larger municipalities. This is something I know the Transit Village is a half mile from the train, but this is something I always like to show whenever I get a chance. This circle is 1 mile. So many of you here, I'm sure, have heard the last mile problem. Metuchen is the last mile problem. It's almost the entire borough is within this 1 mile of our train station, which is right in the center of our town, and it's in the center of our downtown. So it's very, very, very walkable, very bikeable, and that's something that we've embraced, and it made us obviously a really great municipality for our Transit Village designation. As you saw earlier, we were in 2002, I believe, we became the 8th designated transit village within the state. And of course, it's not enough to just take that claim and say, I'm going to do a transit village. You actually have to work at it. And since becoming a transit village, we've done a number of things. We replaced acres of our surface parking lot with residential and retail. We've added about 744,000 square feet to our downtown, which you'll see in a second. We now have people living downtown. We have over 400 apartments within our downtown area. We now have a Whole Foods, which is something we were missing. We were missing a grocery store within the borough, and we now have a Whole Foods there. And all this new residents and new retail is really bringing a lot more spending to our downtown. And one of the keys to Metuchen, as far as our community goes, was we were able to get this town plaza, also centrally located in our downtown, out of this deal. So you'll see that in a second. Additionally, so we heard a little bit about parking. So one of the things we did do within our downtown district is we looked at our parking requirements and we adjusted them. So what was previously our parking minimum, we reduced our parking minimums down by 50% within the downtown district, and what used to be the minimums then became maximums. So we now have within the downtown. So we now have parking maximums within our downtown, as well as created a payment in lieu of parking program, which we've been utilizing with various developers to really use shared parking assets as opposed to having to build parking for every single development that takes place. So here's I love showing this. So this is from 2007. You'll see sort of over here on the right-hand side, this is a huge surface parking lot. Right here is the train. The train station is just off screen, right about here. So that parking lot, that surface parking lot, served almost exclusively people that were commuting. We did use it maybe on Saturdays for like a farmer's market and things like that, but for the most part, this lot was used by people that were coming to the train station, dropping their cars off, running to the train, and then running back home as soon as they got home, not spending any money in our downtown, not really contributing to our community necessarily. So you have that, and then we have a number of other parcels going across to the left that were really underutilized. And fast forward to about 2018, now this is that same overhead shot. We now have a parking deck, which has replaced the surface parking lot here on the right, as well as apartments. The town plaza, which I mentioned, is right here in the center, which is really great for all of our community events. And then we also have our Whole Foods in that area. We have new development off to the left, another apartment complex, which you'll see in a second. And I also love doing this screen too. So this was another view of that same surface parking lot. That's what we're looking at now. Wow. One more time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So in the back corner there, that's that parking deck. Right in front of the parking deck, this is actually an old picture. Right in front of the parking deck is that, I guess, 2-story structure you'll see. That is a brand new restaurant. It's called Meximoto. That was always meant to be a restaurant space to really activate that plaza even more. It took a while to get someone in there. It's a pretty large space. They needed to outfit it completely from scratch, so you really needed someone that was going to invest a good amount of money. But it has since opened last year. It's very, very popular. Come down to Metuchen and check it out if you get a chance. And then, of course, those are all the apartments going towards the back, and that's our town plaza in the front section. So I'm just going to walk through a few of our redevelopment projects that we've done. Of course, that one there is called Woodmont Metro, 273 residential units. Those 767 parking spaces have been replaced by the parking garage. By the way, parking garage is not full. It was full at the beginning when we first opened it, but since the pandemic, it has not been full. I think the entire top level is actually closed. It hasn't been utilized as much anymore because there's just less demand for that type of parking. So, and of course, the public plaza, the Whole Foods is opened up. We going across the street from the Whole Foods. It's called the Hub at Metuchen. It's 79 rental units, about 11,000 square feet of retail space on the ground floor. And then we did a number of other smaller projects. So this one, City Village, is just a small 22 unit, but it's also right within the downtown, very, very walkable to the train station. Another one, which is actually even closer to the train than Woodmont, is downtown Metro, 19 units, pet friendly, 1 and 2 bedrooms. Right around the corner, 21 Station Place, another 15 unit building. So we've been taking a lot of older buildings and either refurbishing them or building new right in place. And it's really been, it doesn't always have to be these like large projects. Although this one is a large project, 212 Durham. This one's not online yet. This is a rendering. This was an industrial site. It's a little bit further away from the train and from the core downtown area. But as you saw at the second slide, Metuchen is so small. It's really, everything is very walkable and close. So this is going to be another 272 units. Part of this used to be an industrial site, which has since been taken down. In addition to the new apartment building, we're also going to be activating that space. It's called the Dismal Swamp. It's a nature preserve in the Metuchen Edison area. So there's an entrance to this area, the Dismal Swamp area, that has always been there behind this industrial site that just no one knew about because it was behind an industrial building, and there's no reason to go back there. So part of the community benefits of this project in particular is really open up, making that more accessible to people, adding parking, adding a gateway entrance, building out that area with walkways and bird watching towers, and it's going to be a really interesting and really beautiful piece of the community that's going to be built there, in addition to create new rental units. We have a few other redevelopment plans on the horizon. One is this one's called Oak Heights site. It also used to be industrial. We have some ideas of having age-restricted housing there potentially, and potentially assisted living that we're working towards. We're hoping to get online sometime soon. A few others. These kind of go with more smaller size ones. So a multi-story on what's Pearl Street, which is right around the corner from our town plaza, as well as another one that's a little bit further off on Middlesex Avenue, another multi-story. So of course it's not just about redevelopment, it's also about, as we heard, making things safe for people to walk and bike. And that's something we really take pride in Metuchen, and me specifically. That's one of the things that I'm most interested in as an elected official. So we've done a number of things, the most recent of which was working with New Jersey Transit on this study for connecting the Middlesex Greenway, which is a part of the East Coast Greenway. It's a trail, used to be a rail trail. It's now converted, it's paved, and it connects from Metuchen all the way to almost to Perth Amway. So we worked on New Jersey Transit with the study of finding ways to connect that Greenway to the New Jersey Transit station and bus station. So we have some great plans that came out of that. Now it's trying to find funding to actually make those happen. We have our first bike lane going in on Grove Avenue, which should be happening maybe later this year, depending on if we can get the paving done in time. So we need to pave the road and then put the bike lane down. Actually, on Megan's slide, she actually reminded me in 2024, Metuchen received for Grove Avenue Transit Village grant money for the train station goes over Grove Avenue, so we need to rehabilitate that area that goes underneath the train trestle. And it's part of the reason why is because we're going to be improving this Grove Avenue area with a bike lane, so it made sense to also improve that walkway. Another huge project we have throughout our Main Street. We received this grant back in 2018, I think. Grants, right? I'm sure you all know, take quite a while, but this one, it's going to be huge for us. It's almost a mile long within our Main Street. We're going to be adding things like bump outs, new crosswalks, new signals, and for everything for improving safety within our downtown, which of course is going to improve people getting to and from transit, people getting to and from our downtown businesses. And right now, literally right now, if you go to Metuchen on New Street, which is right abuts the plaza, we're working on improving the sidewalks and adding pedestrian crossings in that area currently. So, okay, great. It's the bottom line is it's working. Like all these things here that you see have happened within the last year. So in 2023, in March, Metuchen received the Great American Main Street Award from the National Main Street Association. We're just the third town in New Jersey to receive that after Montclair and Westfield. And at the end of last year in December, we were notified by Jersey's Best magazine that Metuchen was going to be the 2024 Destination of the Year. And then literally just in April, we found out that Money Magazine had named Metuchen one of the 50 best places to live in the United States. So thank you, yeah. I mean, all those are absolutely great, obviously, but really, when it comes down to it, it's really the numbers that are the most important. And our downtown vacancy rates, back in 2016, before a lot of this development happened, our vacancy rates were as much as 22% in our downtown retail. We're down to about 4%-ish now in 2024. And I guess we're not done. So everything I talked about was really north of the train station. What you're seeing here is a shot of rendering of the south side of the New Jersey Transit Station. Letter E there in the top right corner, that's the train station itself. Down here, this is mostly an office district at the moment, but it's something we're looking to activate. And what we're looking and hoping to do down here, point A, that's an old theater that we had called the Forum Theater. I think I actually have a slide. Yeah. That it was built in, I believe, the 1930s. It was up for sale by the owner back in 2019, and we were concerned that the theater may go away. So the borough actually purchased that theater, and we're looking to, I'll just go back one, we're looking to redo this entire area and potentially make sort of an arts district with that theater as the centerpiece of our arts district. In fact, Sheena, I'm really interested in the incubator space, so I'm going to talk to you about that after this, please. Because that's exactly the kind of stuff we're looking to do. We want to not only activate the theater, but we're hoping to bring residential units down to this area, bring more retail down to this area, and something like the incubator space is like exactly what I would picture, like being able to give a space for artists within the community to have a space to create, to make, to eventually potentially even do well and go out and move on to their own space and open their own retail shop. So this is something we're working on currently. It's basically the same size of our current downtown. So this is like Metuchen Downtown 2.0. So this is huge for us. It's something we're really interested in, major economic opportunities, and it's absolutely in line with transit villages, and we're really excited about it. So that's me. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pallavi Shilde. I'm Planning Director for the City of Newark. And Jason, I shop in that Whole Foods all the time. I've seen the whole space transform. The plaza photo that you had there, I have attended so many events there. They have the farmers market and so many fairs. So great space. TOD Transit Village in Newark is going to look very different than Metuchen. And I wanted to just take a moment to talk about the history of the space here. What you're looking at is an image from the 1930s. This is the intersection Broad and Market. This was really the heartbeat of Newark. Back then, when the population of Newark was probably around 450,000, which was the highest, and that was the peak of the population. Like any American industrial city or city, Newark went through the changes that we all learned in planning school. How the flight happened from the center city to the suburbs. And what really made Newark's position maybe worse is the 1967 riots that happened in Newark. But the decline, I would say, at this crossroad here of Broad and Market started to happen way before the 1967 riots, because all American cities were going through these changes, and the 1967 riots really created sort of a space here that was completely vacant, completely devoid of any activity, in so much contrast to this image that you see here. Because the crossroad here, if you look at it, these are all the people. You can see and just understand what kind of uses were in this neighborhood or this crossroad. You know, everywhere, the ground floor of all these historic buildings, it was commercial. There were grocery stores, there was probably financial institutions. And back there, what you see is the Prudential Tower that was demolished for them to build another high-rise, which is not far from here. But you had a lot of financial institutions, insurance buildings that occupied this space. This was the heartbeat of Newark. But when it all went away, when the population was not there to support it, when the foot traffic was not there to support the retail there, people started to demolish buildings. Most of the buildings were in such ruins that they had to be demolished for safety, I guess. That's when people started to come in and buy these properties, and most of the use that you see now in this area, and I'm talking a little beyond this intersection, you see a sea of parking lots. I'm gonna advance the slide. Hold on. So this is the center that we are talking about. If you've been reading the news about Newark, it talks about, there are many articles that talk about the renaissance of Newark. The renaissance of Newark is really happening here at Broad and Market and the half-mile radius from this intersection. And this Broad and Market is the epicenter of that renaissance. During lunch, I think someone asked me, is there a project that motivates you and kind of gets you to work? And funny, I said that I have a whole list of projects and I'm going to showcase them in today's presentation. That is what kind of gets me excited, and there's never a dull moment. So I've been with the city for 8 years, and some of you that have seen my name tag, it says Television is Jersey City, and I had to cross it out and say Newark. No, I didn't just change job, but I've been with Newark for 8 years, and I think that's a good enough time to really understand the changes that happened in Newark and what is to come in Newark. And I'll talk about this space here. Why is Newark Transit Village designation different? Because we are focusing on the Broad and Market, which is the regional bus hub. You have a lot of buses that commute through these crossroads, and I have listed them some for you. What I'm trying to get at is it's like a junction of many things. There's a light rail, there's the bus stops, there's a Newark Penn Station, PATH, New Jersey Transit, Amtrak. There are a total 17 bus routes. And so many stops. So it's really the epicenter of this transportation hub. And the reason why we chose this and not other light rail station is because of the ridership. The ridership is enormous here. And we felt that by getting the designation and the funding to support some of the projects that we have here, this area can really get a boost that we need in terms of infrastructure and other pedestrian projects. And that's why we went for the designation here. So the ridership was the key here. And I want to kind of zoom out a little bit and show you what is the area that we are dealing at. So I do mark the center, Broad and Market, but you can't miss the Prudential Center that's right there. That's kind of the jewel here in this area. But then look right just below it or around Prudential Center. What do you see? You can't miss it. It's that sea of parking lots that I talked about. For some of you that don't know, the parking lot that you see right below Prudential Center, and I didn't know this, I found out when I started working for Newark, that used to be the Chinatown. They had a lot of buildings there that were smaller, like 2-3 story residential buildings with maybe commerce or office space on the ground floor. But everything was demolished, and there was reason to do that because the empty buildings, kind of led to a lot of illegal activities and crime, and that's why they had to be demolished. But again, then a lot of agencies came in or entities came in and bought these parking lots. And Newark was going through this time period where everybody was buying property and just turning them into parking lot, because that seemed to be the highest and best use at that time. So that's what happened. I want you to look at, I think this is a pointer maybe, yes. I want you to look at this building here, if you can see my pointer. And I'll tell you a little story about that building too. That building probably would have seen the same fate. It would have been demolished and turned into a parking lot, but the entity that it was used to doing it decided not to demolish it. I don't know what was the reason. Maybe it was such a strong building that demoing the building would have cost them more money than probably rehabbing it or doing it after reuse. Whatever the reason was, I think that ended up being really the jewel in this area, apart from Prudential Center. So I'll go and zoom on into these projects that are in the pipeline, but I wanted to give you a sense. So what you see is really the Passaic River on the top, and then you have Harrison. This is an older photo, because otherwise on the Harrison side you would have seen the development that we saw in some of these presentations. Then you have the rail lines that really divide the Ironbound section of Newark. This is the East Ward. Ironbound is the neighborhood in the East Ward of Newark. It really divides that neighborhood from the rest of the city. And I'll talk about the connections that we have proposed or that are in the works. And then I want you to focus right behind or to the right or to the left of the Prudential Center. So it's different densities everywhere, right? But in the center, you cannot miss these towers, and the towers is what is in the pipeline. I will show you the details in the following slides. So this is that green space that I talked about that is right next to that industrial warehouse that was not demolished. But this is a park that is now open. It is called the Mulberry Commons Park. This is a 3-acre park, and it was opened in, I believe, May 2019. But it didn't happen after a few years. It took us a whole decade to put this park together. Because if you know how government works and if you know how land assembly is done, it takes a really long time to assemble these parcels in a dense network of city where you have parcels that are so small that in order to have a park of 3 acres, you have to have land swaps that need to kind of happen before you assemble this large piece that is 3 acres. But this is really a game changer, because when we have events of graduation, which is really the season now is happening, this space is utilized so much by the spillover from Prudential Center, and it really becomes a nice connection from, like a pedestrian connection from the Newark Penn Station to the Prudential Center. This is another project. This is called the Mulberry Commons Pedestrian Bridge. So when you kind of walk over from Prudential through this park, you have a direct connection to the Penn Station through this proposed pedestrian bridge. Recently we had an event to kind of launch this project, or it's called groundbreaking. But this is another game changer because of that connection that I talked about, how Ironbound is completely disconnected from the city because of the rail line network. What this bridge is going to help us get over that connection. So it is a game changer for this neighborhood, and we have a very beautiful design, but this is what's coming. Not only does it provide a connection, but it also provides a community space and green space for the Ironbound neighborhood. That is so dense. It doesn't have high rises yet, but it's extremely dense because of the way that it developed over time due to its proximity to the train station. So Penn Station is also going through renovation, and it's $160 million renovation. And then this pedestrian bridge, which is another civic landmark, is $110 million. This is the warehouse that I talked about. This was built probably in the 1907. It was a very old industrial warehouse, and the freight trains actually came to the first or the second level of this building. So whatever cargo they would bring in would be unloaded here. But I think the developer did a great job of rehabbing this, and it now serves as the largest commercial space that offers offices. And the key tenant here is Marsh Wrigley Confectionery that moved in probably just a few years ago, and they occupy the top 3 floors. But it really kind of showcases this whole centerpiece. The other rehab project that I wanted to talk about is this Walker House. It used to be the New Jersey Bell headquarters that was built in 1929. It is an absolutely beautiful building, both inside and out, and I wanted to kind of show you the decorations on the building. You can see that lady with the phone because it was a New Jersey Bell headquarters. That was the telephone company. But the developer here also did a great job. We have 269 mixed income apartments. And every single project that I will show you here, because it is in the living downtown, that is the redevelopment plan that this whole half-mile radius falls under. You should know that living downtown really has no height restrictions. Sky is the limit, either that or your imagination and FAA. So this plan was put together in 2008. You know, I guess their rationale was that if you zone it, they will come, they meaning developer. Well, no one came. What came was recession in 2008, and that's why we did not see any development in this redevelopment plan, although this was the most liberal redevelopment plan. You know, you could have a developer come in, and if, you know, the developers always ask, okay, what are the height restrictions? What is the density restriction? Well, there is none here. So like I said, sky is the limit. But there were many hurdles why we did not see any kind of development here, and it was not just the recession. The other problems were that the parcels were extremely small. There were also parking lots sitting here. There were some buildings that probably property owners wanted to maintain. So there were all sorts of problems, but I think now, and more specifically in the last 2-3 years, everything has changed, and all of a sudden, we are seeing this huge pipeline of buildings that are coming in, and most of these are high rises. And mind you, this is the area which is zoned for and which really needs the high rises. Because the first image that I showed you, did you see the people on the streets, the foot traffic? We're missing all of that here. So we need that, and I think this is one piece here where the whole city wholeheartedly agrees that we need the density here, so no one is saying no to the high rises here. In another part of the city, that's a different story, but I'm not gonna go there. I'm just gonna focus on this area here. This is another beautiful rehab project. This is a building, and remember I told you that Broad and Market was really the epicenter of all financial buildings and institutions. So this was built in 1912. It was the first national state bank headquarters. Well, everybody had moved out by then, so most of these financial institutions had also moved out. So this was turned into, the building sat vacant for a really long time, but it is a beautiful building and it's still standing. So it was turned into a hotel in 2014. But after a few years, it did not work out. And I think after COVID, things just kind of went south. So finally, we all know that there's many conversions happening everywhere, you know, office to residential. So this is one of those projects where the building was then converted most recently from office to residential. There's some issues there because, you know, if it was a hotel, the units are going to be very small. But we also know that in downtown, where the rates are really high, there is a high demand for micro units. So this building actually has a few micro units. And it actually helps everybody. For those that cannot afford the rent, if the unit is smaller, then you can probably afford the rent. So micro units are very welcome in the living downtown area. And this has about 100 micro units. So I'm going to show you a whole new breed of skyscrapers that are coming to Newark, and some of them are going to look very similar because I guess it's the same architect or the same developer. So this is one of the recent approvals here in the city of Newark. This is 200 Market, and this one has a weird story. You know, I'll let you know. You know, we talk about the issues that we face in a TOD, and I want to use this slide as an example. So it's a beautiful tower. I think the tower is right now capped at 41 stories. But the funny story is this. I feel like we might be the only city that have this very unique situation where I told you, I was trying to sell you the living downtown. I said that height is no restriction, sky is the limit. Well, there's another restriction. This is a historic district. It's the Four Corners Historic District. which means that it is subject to the review and approval of the Historic Commission. And how they vote is a different story. So apparently this project came in at, I think, maybe 45 or 50 story. And they were asked to limit the height to the building that you see in the back over there. That's the historic building. So the developer had to agree to chop off a few floors and then limit the height to 41 stories. So that's one of those issues, you know. Good or bad, I don't know. I just wanted to bring that point up, that we can run into some issues. But beautiful building. Again, every single building that you're going to see is going to have active ground floor. And I'll talk about that issue because everybody talked about the vacancy that we have in retail. Yes, we do have it, but that doesn't mean that we will not have retail or ground floor retail, because we know there are so many projects in the pipeline. We know that people are coming, and eventually when all these developments go online, there will be people that will need the retail services and amenities. So we are just kind of putting them in there now. And again, every single project, and I'm going to say this once, won't repeat it, every single project, like I said, will have ground floor retail. It will also have some parking in the ground floor. Now, living downtown doesn't need parking actually, because it's so close to the train station, and some of our regulations state that if you're within walking distance, let's say 1,200 feet or 1,500 feet, you do not need parking. But I think developers are reluctant to have a development with no parking, because you will get tenants that do need some parking. Of course, once you put the car in the garage, you're probably never taking it out. If you work here, you shop here, you play here, you won't be taking out the car. So we're not there in terms of like taking away parking. Developers do provide some kind of parking. Here's another building. You probably guessed it, maybe the same architect, but these are 3 towers actually. One project, 3 towers. And if you see the picture, it's under construction, you know, so it's happening very soon. I think by the end of the year, this will be done, and there might be people living in it. So I'm gonna maybe advance quickly. This is another one. They all look the same, isn't it? Yes. Sometimes I get confused. I'm like, which one did get approval? Is it this one or that one? Anyway, this is our tower. Again, 45 seems to be the sweet spot. I guess going beyond 45 is a little bit of a risk. You know, once one developer gets approval for 45, the other one comes in with 45, unless there's a third one coming in for 50. But I don't know. But yeah, great towers, and like it, hate it, I don't know. Some people might not like the glass towers. But guess what? They are coming. Again, you have active retail, and you also have public plaza. So wherever possible, we are having these conversations with developers to have some kind of community benefit that the project brings in. It might be a community space that's inside the building or a public plaza that's outside the building. This one looks different. Okay, this one is the Four Corners Millennium Project. Huge project, 7 mixed-use buildings, and they recently came back to amend the application. Guess what? They wanted more stories and more units, but they will get their approval. So same thing, okay? I'm gonna quickly advance it. But this project sat without approval for many years. I don't know what the issue was, and all of a sudden, this one is also in the pipeline now. Here's another one, again, massive, oh, it's a part of the same project. I told you 7 buildings, right? So these are 7 high-rise buildings. It's again a game changer, but notice the contrast there, right? On Broad, you have these very small buildings, a 3-story, 4-story, and the backdrop there is going to be this high-rise. So how to deal with this kind of contrast, that's a separate story. Here's another interesting building. This is, I can't say it's a rehab, it is a high-rise, but look at the bottom of that building. It's the Metropolitan Museum. The developers said they were going to preserve the facade of that museum. So it's a very unique project. Here's another tower. This is also in the pipeline. This one is built. So for a change, I can say that this is built, this is functioning, and everybody is living in there. This is right outside of the Penn Station, so clearly there was not going to be any vacancy. That base there, that is the parking garage, and they've done a really great job of covering it up. and there's retail on the ground floor. But this is a great project. Another project by the same developer, but now the projects that I'm showing you are towards the Passaic River, so we're gonna kind of move out a little bit from the center and towards the water. But that's it. Again, and this is also approved. This is another one. This is a massive project, got approval. It's gonna do adaptive reuse of an existing office building, and then they will have 4 new high-rise buildings. But we are also including sustainable green building features, so that's another conversation that we have with the developers. This is my last slide, I promise. This is NJPAC. You know NJPAC is a big player in Newark. So apparently they're also into real estate and they're also doing a lot of development. So they are bringing these high-rise residential mixed-use project into the city that is going to completely transform that end of Newark. And that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
I'm going to invite everyone back up. I think I'm going to stand at the lectern because I think it will just be easier. We're going to have a conversation amongst the panelists. I have a few questions, and then we'll take some questions from the audience as well. I want to sort of throw this question first to Jason and Sheena. I want to take us back a little bit to the beginning, to when you first were becoming transit villages. Not necessarily that you were there, but thinking back to it, it's wonderful to see all the work that's happened and all the things that are happening now. Mm-hmm. But obviously, that's not where your community started. You know, there was definitely, from my recollection, there was definitely not community buy-in to do a lot of this, and I want to take us back to that point and discuss that a little bit.
Okay.
Would you like to start?
So is this on? Can you hear? Testing? Maybe?
Looks like it might have, batteries might have.
Do you want this?
I'm actually really loud.
You are loud.
Yeah.
You know,
do it.
And the room
You know,
is good at his.
I have to say, I was worried that I was going to have to go after Sheena, but thanks, Jason, for taking the spot. A lot of pressure.
So for us, it's like any first suburb. I mean, we're next to Newark. What you just presented was amazing because you saying the sky is the limit. Our communities see a 4-story building and they're like, high rises, skyscrapers. And I'm just like, it's like 4-story, 5, 6, 7. And you see like the mortified look on faces, like, you're turning us into a city. And then like you throw those up there and the sky's the limit. I think that was probably the biggest issue, right? Is communities like South Orange that were used to low volume, they felt like the self-entitlement of we have a train station, but it's meant for our own community. It's not a public good. It's for our residents. Growth has always been seen as something that's bad. We all hear the same things, right? The traffic's gonna increase. Oh, the number of school-aged children is gonna overwhelm our district. On the market rate housing that we're putting in, 1 student for every 38 units built in TOD. So we try and reinforce this. The affordable is a little bit different. The other scare, I don't want to say that they're scared, they're legitimate concerns, but the charm, the downtown charm. I keep hearing about something that was before I was born that was an ice cream store. And it's like if we could go back to that ice cream store and we had this hardware store and we didn't have all these people. We did a mobility study as a part of our master plan, which update that baby as soon as possible. I know Newark has an update. When was your update?
So we're actually going to be kicking that off at the end of this year.
That's amazing.
It's been like 1960s or something before since a full-on update.
Same with us. Like we did our master plan. The last one was in 1978, a comprehensive master plan. So we were just doing the continuous like re-examination. So this time we went all out. We created 150 and ambassadors into the community to get the feedback. So we have like a whole new path moving forward and some majority level of community buy-in. But everything that, from starting the Transit Village designation, which I think people were just very skeptical, and I see today even other communities who are like, should we be a transit village? They're like, it's gonna be urban development everywhere.
Right.
And because it's like, because you understand, you are embracing smart growth principles, that you need density, you need height, you're locating people where there's alternative transportation, where there's amenities, where there's government services. But as soon as you say transit village, all that turns into is height, density, and pushback. And I think that's, I would say that we spend a lot of time in our community, me in particular, on social media. I know that most elected officials are like, oh my God, I'm not going anywhere near that. I'm like, incoming! Like, I think you have to own the narrative of what's happening in your community, or else those who have misinformation will purport that misinformation nonstop, and soon you will have a community that's not behind the importance of growth. We're in a housing crisis in New Jersey, and somehow every community believes they should be exempt from contributing to improving this problem. And so as long as you have advocates at the leadership level to continuously working with the community, explaining what your affordable housing obligations are, no pilots or developer giveaways. I mean, we're all broke. Do they honestly think that it's like, oh, we're leaving so much money on the table just because we want to? No, we have to go through financial analysis. We do audits. We look at returns. We have to negotiate for so many things. That's one thing that has always really, really been challenging, is this idea of in lieu of taxes, right? Is there tax exempt? It's like, no, it's just a different financial model for us. And we continue to have those conversations regularly. But overall, I think that people are moving now towards embracing it more than it was in the past. It's been a big leap forward.
I guess what I was trying to say is it's been a 25-year project.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that you didn't start where you are now, obviously.
It's been building on the visionaries of the past. You know, Midtown Direct was huge for us once we got Midtown Direct. Then there was, a couple smaller projects, and then it's just gotten a little bigger, little bigger, little bigger. And like I said, the norm used to be in our community is about 3 stories, 30 to 40 units per acre was like, whoa, we're bold. And at this point in time, we're pushing 6, 7 stories and about 80 to 100 units per acre for a community that the sky isn't the limit, but that people are becoming more accustomed to, is that we need to have that, and that it's more environmentally friendly. I think for all of our progressive warriors who need to live their lawn sign, is that as long as we are also making a argument for climate change, is that what are we going to do with all these people? This is the most environmentally sustainable way to provide housing into the future. It is not single family homes, it is not large lots, it is exactly what we're doing in all these transit villages. And I think it's, something we should all be very proud of.
So I don't only want to give Sheena the floor. Jason, I think I want to talk a little bit about Metuchen, because it's also, even though you haven't been a transit village for 25 years, it's been at least a 25-year project to get to the point where you are now.
Yeah, it's funny. So we've been getting a lot of press recently, as you saw on the slides, for some of these accolades. And one of them I saw was Metuchen overnight success, 40 years in the making. And it's just absolutely true. I mean, we've had enough, way before me and before my time, there's been many leaders that have recognized the importance of our train station and the importance of rethinking surface parking lots and building out in a way that's for people and not for cars necessarily. And it's taken a long time to get there. Metuchen, interestingly, like in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, there was a real downturn in our downtown because of 2 large malls that were built not far from our where we are. So the retail really took a dip then, and it's really kind of slid back the other way now. And now those malls are now being challenged by the likes of Amazon, as was mentioned earlier. And people that are looking for a more personalized experience are looking for downtowns like ours that have smaller, local, mom-and-pop type of retail shops there. So Metuchen's really been sort of on the upturn because of that. And it takes a lot of strong leadership to push through to get these changes that we see and we know that are going to be beneficial for the community, and it takes not necessarily looking at those online comments and or pushing through them anyway.
I want to return to something Sheena was just saying about the density or the height. Obviously, we're talking about two more suburban communities and a really urban community. Can you, or Pallavi, maybe you want to talk about this a little bit? Talk about how density and height is different in different transit villages and how it sort of plays into how transit villages are really a reflection of what is locally needed. So
is it working?
It's not gonna work now. Sorry, I think the batteries went out.
Yes, my voice is not high.
do you want to come stand here? Because if you really want.
It's all right. I will try to answer as loud as I can. You know, it's interesting you asked that, because if Newark went for a transit village for a different area, and I can say maybe Broad Street Station, it would look very different than this transit village, because there I don't think we can have skyscrapers as high as we have in the living downtown. There it might be capped at 25 or 30. So even in Newark, it's a little nuanced, right? And I can completely relate. With our living downtown, it was different because historically we had high rises there. So that switch or the new game plan here wasn't something new for the people. They were already used to that, right? So all they wanted to have was an active downtown, which was not active for a really long time. And also it has so much concentration of those office towers. Well, office towers are not coming back. So everybody was looking for ways to activate this neighborhood, even if that meant we are going to have sky rises, because that was already accepted. What we also, and what I failed to mention, is that in every single building that got approved, there's the inclusionary zoning ordinance piece. Newark already adopted that years ago, and we only kept strengthening that piece, where in the past maybe the trigger was that, okay, if your project has 30 units, you have to provide 20%. Well, now the trigger is 15 units only. So if your project is over 15 units, 20% of your units have to be affordable. Not only that, we're not just calling out the numbers, we're also specifying that it has to have a good mix, because we found out, and you always find out later on, and that's when you amend, that's why we amend the ordinances or resolutions. We found out that developers were only doing the studio, or were only offering the studio on a 1-bedroom under IZO, and then we had to mandate, no, even that 20%, whatever mix that is, it's going to be a mix of studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and occasionally 3-bedroom. So because we have all these pieces there, I think it's easier for the community to accept it, because everybody cried gentrification when it started to happen. But when we started to put these policies and ordinances in place to kind of help the community, I think it was easier for them to accept it.
Yeah. Jason, when Woodmont went in, the height of that building, did that cause a rift in the community?
Oh yeah, I mean, because that was our first big project that we've done. So not that it's gotten much easier, it's gotten a little bit easier now that people have seen the success of it. But yeah, the height of that building, the fact that the parking spaces were going away, even though they weren't, they were getting put into a parking garage. Yeah, those were definitely challenges, and there's a lot of public input that happened. I was not on the council at the time, but that was one of the longest meetings that the council has had in recent memory, of people coming up to the microphone to speak on some against, but also lots of people for the project.
And do you feel that if another project came in of that same height, or maybe even a little bit taller, then you've already had that conversation at least somewhat?
Yeah, it has actually. So on my slides, I showed 212 Durham, which is going in where the industrial park used to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same height as Woodmont is. It's actually the same amount of units too, 272. We were able to get that through more easily than Woodmont, I would say. I think we took some of our lessons learned from the Woodmont process, and we really went out. We had a large amount of public input. We had a sort of a science fair kind of situation. We invited everyone to the high school. We had slides. We had people talking about pilots there. We had the developer there talk and show off the project itself. We had people from the Environmental Commission talking about that Dismal Swamp Preserve that would come from it. And when it came time to vote, that was not a long meeting. It was not many people that were too concerned because I think because we did so much outreach to the community beforehand.
Right. I would take that as a lessons learned.
Absolutely.
So I want to return to parking for a minute. So you were talking, Jason, about how the parking structure that is associated with the Woodmont project is not full now.
No. And when it opened, it was. When it opened, they would have to bring out the sign every day, every weekday anyway, saying that no more availability, full occupancy. It has not been like that since certainly since the pandemic. It's a six floors, I believe. So the sixth floor has been closed since then. It has not reopened. And that structure is used by commuters. Obviously, it's used by the people that are living in Woodmont and the surrounding buildings as well. And then the first floor is also for retail. So people come there to park for retail. So it's something that it's been going up slowly. It's still not where it used to be.
Right. I bring it up as a question of going forward. What are you thinking about the parking requirements in your community? I know you talked about bringing them down and making them a maximum and so forth, but is it still something that like developers are expecting to put in? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, you had mentioned that developers, even if we got rid of them completely, they still want to build parking potentially, and is what we're seeing, because that people feel like they need it or want it. It probably even more so in a Metuchen or a South Orange than Newark. So yeah, it's always going to. I feel like it's always going to be a challenge about the right amount of parking. When we're working with developers, we point to that deck. We still have a few surface parking lots too. One of the projects, 21 Station Place, that did not build any parking. They wanted it. We had them not build parking because there was a surface parking lot right across the street, and we had them purchase parking spaces in that parking lot as opposed to building out. So
right, if I remember correctly, Metuchen's one of the few places that has actually put together parking agreements with their developers.
Yes, we've done that a few times.
Yeah. Sheena, have you done that in South Orange?
So in general, what I'd like to say is that I don't think most of our towns have parking problems. I think we have a crisis of a walking problem. It is amazing to watch how our residents need to go to Starbucks and would rather circle the loop for 20 minutes looking for the VIP spot right in front of Starbucks than park across the street and walk like 30 seconds. It is amazing to me. Yet we can go to major football games, we can go to the mall, and it's like, we're walking, we're going to that Macy's sale. But when it comes to the basics of a downtown, is that residents will tell you you have a crisis because they didn't get the spot that they needed. So for us in particular, and that's not to criticize, I love our residents, but you understand the need for convenience. You want to have a dedicated spot for yourself wherever you go, and when you don't, you're going on Twitter to say there's a parking crisis. So, like I said, we've reduced our ratios to 1-to-1. I just recently met with Jonathan Rose. He is one of the developers for the western portion of our transit lot in a partnership. And when we were talking about the parking, because there needs to be replacement parking for New Jersey Transit and their customers, we're trying to meet that 1-to-1 ratio. He was asking, can we go lower? And I'm just throwing this idea out there, is I'm wondering if we structure our redevelopment agreements where we lower to say 0.75 for every unit or even 0.5, is there a way to enter an agreement? This isn't a plug for them, but with a zip car, can we make it so mandatory options on site for like 10 zip cars? Like, what does that look like rather than building more structured parking? The other thing that I'm saying, first time ever, didn't know it existed. Maybe I did, but didn't. We had a developer recently come in. He was like, I've got a plan for robotic parking. And I'm like, wait, how does this work? Because he was short about 30 spaces. And in the back, underground, he's showing me, he's like, and you get your car, you're coming out of your unit, you say, car, and then you go into the basement and your car is waiting for you. And I'm like, how does this work?
It's like an electronic valet.
Yeah, and so like in terms of cost, because every project needs to be financially viable. Residents are like, if they paid full taxes, what would it be? No, everything has to be financially viable. for the developer, a good agreement for the village, etc. But the parking is so expensive. We're talking about 30,000 plus a square foot per parking space now. So when you show me some AI crate, and like you have your car come down and it's ready for you, and it's cheaper for the developer to take on that risk and put that in that building, then stacking cars is an incredible idea for the people who feel like they absolutely need to have that car as a part of any type of unit that they're going into. I actually had a question for my colleagues. Like a typical 2-bedroom, what are you seeing your rents go for in your community?
Upwards of 3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably a little bit less than that, but yeah, close.
Housing just
That's
sucks.
a lot of money.
We literally just hit, and again, a lot of the market, it subsidizes all the 20% inclusionary affordable housing, but here we are trying to add as much housing as possible, and yet still you come into my community and you're seeing 2 bedrooms go for $5,000 a month. And it's like, we're trying to add, we're trying to saturate, we're doing everything that we can, and we're all under the assumption that the more housing we build, we can try and bring down some of these rents, and we can try and stabilize and have a good socioeconomic balance. But it's like a chicken and egg. The more we become a desirable place to live,
Right.
the more housing, the more active nightlife and storefronts,
Right.
these rents keep going higher and higher and higher. And the idea of a 2-bedroom for $5,000 a month is, I just sit there like, I can't wait to see your audit and take our 15% of your revenue.
So I-
can I
yes.
add to that? I believe the culprit there is really the inflated land value, and we're seeing that in North.
Yeah.
Anytime we make any zoning changes, right, the land prices just go
Yeah.
up. And I know that one of these towers that I showed you, I believe the reason for these higher rents is because the developer had to purchase the parcel for millions of dollars, and now he's trying to recuperate that, right?
Yeah.
That's why the prices go up. But we can't control that, unfortunately. That's just.
So I only have one more thing on my list. I want you to talk a little bit more about how you have worked community benefits in your various communities, because you each talked a little bit about them.
Sure. So we do that through various ways, actually, and I can give you some examples. One project that I did not show you that is actually closer to the river. And by the way, we are seeing block developments. That's a new thing now. Nobody wants to do just like a skyrise or high rise or a development or a small lot. Everybody's looking to build on these big lots. So there is a vacant there is a parking lot that occupies a whole block near the river. There's a developer that's coming in with the development. It's going to be like this block development with the base. The Ironbound community, which I said is so densely populated, and they have like double, triple parking on their streets. So any parking space that they have, it's a priced, it's very priced. So when this development came in, the mayor we have a redevelopment agreement where they're going to accommodate public parking in their building. So that's one piece. There are some where we actually ask developers to do a community space within the building. Some training is also provided. So there's so many things. And my favorite is really the 10% on-site green space. If any developer can do that, and that's a battle, I guess. Nobody wants to give even a square inch of their property. They're like, oh, we're going to put a rooftop garden. Yeah, but that's not for the community. Are you going to give public access? No. So nobody wants to do that on ground. But I'm trying to get there. But there's many ways. I don't know. Either one of you want to chime in also.
Yeah, sure. So it's always a negotiation, right? With Woodmont, you saw we had the beautiful plaza that we were able to get as a community benefit in addition to the parking garage, which was needed to be replaced for the surface parking lot. We are, for 212 Durham Avenue, which is not online yet, that's our first pilot. Metuchen has never done a pilot before that one. So that's a new, something new for us, which we're excited that we were able to do. But the community benefits are important in selling it to your community, right? So we're putting ourselves as elected officials out there on the line a little bit when we're working and doing these projects, and we know they're for the good of the community, but we need the community's backing and the community's support, and those community benefits really are what help get it over the line for some people.
One developer actually has even agreed to put a fire station on the ground floor of his building, so that's another big one, because as the resident number is going up in the living downtown, we also need to think about services, right? That's lacking right now because there was always office space. But as residential is coming in, we are planning for more services. And the only way that we can do that, we can't have a standalone fire station in the downtown area because again, land prices. So we have sort of an agreement with the developer who is going to get one of the city parcels and he will do an on-site fire station. That's the first one I'm seeing, but maybe they're doing it everywhere. But that's a very unique one, I have to say. Yeah.
So I think I have time for maybe one or two questions.
Can I add that one? The
Oh,
last
sure.
part? Okay,
Sorry.
sorry, because I love this one so much. Are there any developers in the room? All right, I didn't say it. Suspect. Here we go. The developers are gonna come in. They're gonna find your highest water tower, and they're gonna be like, oh, this is the standard of height in your community. You have to push back on them continuously. I mean, they know what they're doing. They're not nonprofit entities. They want to maximize every single square footage. You know, sometimes it's like, we need sidewalks, and they're done. It's like, is that a unicycle lane? What is that? You ask for green infrastructure. They're like, we have an IKEA bamboo stick on the roof, and you're like, what? That's not green infrastructure. You got to do better than that. So all aspects of projects and working on the redevelopers agreement and the redevelopment plan has to be so specific to your community's values. I know that I heard a great process in Metuchen. We do the same thing. We call pre-development. My biggest success, I would say, and our community success is by the time something gets to the planning board, I want it to be crickets. Like you just hear the crickets going because it's been so front loaded with engagement. Our environmental commission, our historic commission, we have a walk, bike, ride committee, which is all about, you know, making sure things are safe. We have transportation advisory. We have, you know, we have an animal, like, you know, advocacy groups that's like, can we have pets? Like, you know, everybody is involved with that, so you never get to a place. And then my favorite part is the developer's gonna face our community on talking about community benefits agreements. It's not me in some tower being like, ooh, let's figure it out. They are allowed to participate in deciding what are the things that are important to the community, where do we have gaps, what's good for the neighborhood that might absorb more of this impact, whether it's money for the park. And you saw two of the examples as one thing was we wanted to support our merchants, small businesses, etc. They coalesced together and we would love to do this permanently, rotate it out. The artists came in hard. And so with every one of our projects, those community benefit agreements, we have a storage platform. Like I know that's not really TOD, but like who approves a storage platform? When you see the pro forma of storage facilities, hello. But then we worked with them to build out an entire community space next to a park where our conservancy now utilizes that space to program the park. And then while we were at it, we're like, that's a really, throw a movie screen on there. And so now we're gonna activate a park by having like movies in the park. But I think that that negotiation of community benefits agreements is where you rope in all of your residents to say, here, you know, we have a certain pool of money, right? It's all
Right.
fungible. You know, you're gonna make it up on a pilot or a land sale, wherever it's gonna be, but we wanna do something that you feel strongly about, and that it's such a big win for our community when they see those things come to fruition.
Great answer. I'm so happy to hear from all of you. We're actually out of time for this group. I want to thank our panel. We're going to start impaneling our next group. Thank you.